I'm Jack.E and you're about to find out how to make two different delicious Christmas goodies. The first one is reindeer tartlets, which is like so. The second is a double gingerbread ice cream sandwich. Voila! Gingerbread sandwich or double ginger, whatever I called this before. How do I eat it? It's so good. I might just live on these. This is me, Dr. Death Defy. I'll be your surgeon, your proctor, your... Oh, we're not doing that right now? No? We're doing a cooking video. Okay. So, the reindeer tartlets were found on taste.com. The gingerbread came from my own personal recipe. And welcome to Struggle City, where a running theme in this video is how much I struggle with opening literally any container, any packet. What you want to do is take your biscuits and pop them in a fairy pan tin, put them in the oven 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit for 3 minutes. While they're in there, getting soft and lovely, struggle with the margarine. Okay, so once you've got the margarine open, you'll want 65 grams of this. Put this in a saucepan, and then we're going to be making ganache with this. So, thickened cream, you will need 1/3 of a cup, sorry, 1/3 of a cup if you ever actually manage to get it open. That's unlikely, but here we go. And yes, I have actually just splashed myself all over my skirt, but we're all good. Just wipe it off, keep going. I usually wear aprons and I should have worn one today. So 1/3 of a cup of thickened cream, add that into the saucepan with that margarine. Make sure you get all of it out of the cup and lick your fingers just in case. It might be delicious. It's probably not because it's not sweetened. Now, the recipe calls for 200 grams of cooking chocolate, but I noticed that my bag is 225 grams, so I dumped all of it in, ate one of them just to, even out that ratio discrepancy a little bit. I did notice that this recipe makes way more ganache than necessary, so you could half the ganache recipe and you'll be fine. It's at this point that I realised it's been 5 minutes. Oh no! And my biscuits are still in the oven. They were meant to be in there for 3 minutes, so grab them out and keep stirring constantly with the ganache. If you leave it for too long, it will start to bubble around the edges and the bottom will scald, the chocolate will start burning, so you don't want to do that. So while you're making sure to stir constantly, take a metal spoon and start creating like indentations in the biscuits, which should now be quite soft, and you're just trying to make little dippy bits in them so that you can fill it with ganache at a later point. So keep stirring, and once your ganache is all evenly mixed through, it's looking pretty good. There's no like streaks of margarine, no streaks of cream, it's all just one uniform colour. You can turn off the heat, stir it through a little bit more just to make sure, and then pour it into a clean metal bowl. You want metal so that, I don't know, the recipe just said put it in a metal bowl, so I did. The recipe also said to put this in the fridge for 5 minutes and that it would set, but mine didn't. I had to put mine in the freezer for 25 minutes just to get it slightly ganache. So, chuck it in the freezer, you'll be fine. While that's in there, we can't do anything more with the reindeer tartlets, so we're starting on the gingerbread. Take a large bowl, to mix stuff in, and where are we? Lost myself on my list. Okay, you'll measure out 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of plain flour, and start sieving them into the bowl. I did try to, whack the sieve on the side of the bowl like people do in cooking shows, but I'm inept and had to use a spoon to really slam that through, mostly because I'm impatient too. Once you've done that, mix in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. My notes say garlic, it's not garlic, it's definitely ginger. And then use a spoon to mix all those dry ingredients in together. Now put the bowl full of stuff on the scales and then tear it back to 0 so that you're starting at 0 point, and then measure out 125-ish grams of margarine. I tend to actually add 2 or 3 grams because I'm always worried that it will be slightly too dry. So, 127, 130 grams, you'll be fine. While that sits there, grab a small bowl off to the side and put in 1 teaspoon of golden syrup. Again, I tend to err on the side of more is better. And 1 raw egg. Use a fork to mix them together as best as you can and then put that aside. Go back to that bowl with the dry ingredients and the margarine and start rubbing that start rubbing the margarine through those dry ingredients. You'll end up with like a bread crumbish type kind of consistency where if you squeeze it really hard into your fist, it will kind of hold its shape, but then if you poke it, it's going to crumble. So that's perfect. That's what you want. Now, pour the egg mixture into the big bowl and use a little bit of the dry ingredients to mix into the small bowl to really get every single last drop of moisture into your mix. And then once that's done, you'll start kneading it, and this is the point where it's going to start turning into a dough. So, keep working that through and then keep rubbing off the excess from your hands. Hopefully you washed your hands beforehand. Haha, see what I did there? And just keep working that until you slowly get further and further out of the frame so all people can see is your arm. And if there are any like weird little bits, I found a piece of, I don't even know what that was, something that had fallen into my bowl while it sat clean in the cupboard, so I just, picked that out. No one wants that in their cookie. And once you're completely out of frame, yay, we're done. And now you can readjust the frame slightly. There we go, there you've noticed. Okay, now, perfect, and go wash your hands because you'll end up with tons of stuff underneath your fingernails, which just feels icky. You want to grab a fairly large pan. I used a pizza pan, but you could use, any largish flat one or a multitude of small flat ones. Start grabbing the dough, about a golf ball sized piece, and then rolling it between your hands to create a sphere. And then once you've done that, and there's no real like big cracks or anything in the sphere, you pop it down on the pan and then press it slightly so that it's not perfectly round anymore. It's like slightly flattened on the top. And continue that until you've gone through all the mixture. You might end up with, a little bit left over, in which case have fun eating that, or you might end up with quite a bit left over depending on your size and placement of them, so you can just use a few other pans if you need to. My recipe says to put these 2 inches apart, but they don't have self-raising flour in them, it's just plain flour, so they don't get very much bigger than they currently are. So I usually only leave about 1/2 centimeter of space, and they're fine. They've never joined for me. So the oven is still on from the biscuits from earlier. So what you'll want to do is pop these in the oven for 15 minutes. Again, leaving it at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit, and cook until the timer goes off at 15 minutes or until they're kind of goldenish brown color. When they've come out of the oven, we're going back to the tartlets. So grab the ganache out of the fridge if you put it in there, or the freezer if you were smart, and start filling up the tartlets. At this point, I did actually make mine slightly too shallow, the ganache itself, so feel free to, it's not a runny consistency right now, it's kind of like a gel consistency, so it's going to hold its shape fairly well. So feel free to go slightly over the rim of those biscuits and it should be fine. You really want like a deep ganache for later. Now put the biscuits with ganache back in the fridge while you assemble the face parts. You'll take a bunch of large, regular sized marshmallows, not the huge campfire ones, but just a bunch of regular ones. I used white ones, but I guess you can use pink if you feel like it. And then the recipe, the original one on taste.com, said to use Jaffas as the nose. I'm not a huge fan of those, but I figured strawberry licorice twists and then cutting each twist into little disc-sized pieces was actually perfect for what I was going for, so I've done that. I only even needed one of those tiny twist things, so now I get to eat the whole bag to myself. And now is where I ran into a lot of difficulty because the recipe says use star-shaped pretzels. I couldn't find any of those. I got the regular kind of heart-shaped ones. and I was having so much trouble getting them symmetrical. So in the end, they actually looked cute whether they were symmetrical or not. So I wouldn't worry too much, just break them in half as best you can. They'll be fine. They're just getting eaten anyway. Sorry, just had a burp there. So when you have got all of your antlers assembled and your noses and stuff, you'll put each disc of the strawberry licorice onto the sticky side of the cut marshmallows, and then you'll pop those on the very edge of each tartlet, and somehow I managed to miscount, so here I am adding a few extra. And then what you want to do is take mini marshmallows. You can find these from most of the cake decorating sections of supermarkets. So take each white mini marshmallow, cut that in half for the eyes, and then put that just above the snout. Yep, cool. Okay, now the recipe, again, I've strayed from the recipe quite a few times with this, but it did say to use icing, to create a little bit of icing, or use gel icing or whatever. But I had so much ganache left over that I just used a toothpick dipped in the ganache to make the pupils for the eyes, and most of mine are cross-eyed. I'm going to admit that was on purpose, just because I kind of like the idea of a bunch of goofy reindeer. Now for the part where mine was slightly too shallow. When I was poking the antlers in, they weren't really holding their placement very well, so I ended up having to go over where the antlers joined with a bit of extra ganache to really stabilize them, because no one wants unstable reindeer running around the kitchen. So now that the tartlets are done, you can either eat them or you can stick them in the fridge while you work on the double gingerbread ice cream sandwiches. What you want to do is take some gingerbread ice cream and take a scoop of that, put it in between two pieces of gingerbread. If you don't have gingerbread ice cream, I got mine from Coles, but it is a specialty seasonal thing. You can just take vanilla ice cream and then mix in 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of ginger, or you can just use vanilla or really any flavor that you feel like. As you know, as long as you like it, it doesn't really matter. I strayed from the official recipes, so why shouldn't you stray from mine? And there you have it.